Hello everybody, Hell in a Cell has just ended, and let me tell you something, it nearly put me to sleep, but I made it through it. Really what put me to sleep was the first half. The second half was actually pretty exciting, and actually I missed the first, I think, 8 minutes or so, but all that I really missed was Christian being beat down by Sheamus, which I could have missed anyways, didn't really care. But the next match was one that the crowd chanted the words boring in the middle of. Now the middle of a match is supposed to be the most exciting part, not the part where the crowd chants boring. But this match was Sin Cara Blue versus Sin Cara Black. And on paper, this match looked great, but it turns out that when you put two people in there that have the same basic moves, it gets kind of boring after about 5 minutes. And unfortunately, this match went on for at least 15 minutes. So at least 10 minutes over where it should have ended. But in the end, the blue Sin Cara, who I believe is the real Sin Cara, did win. But like I said, just way too boring of a match. I near about fell asleep during it, and the crowd was chanting boring. And I did notice that the crowd did cheer a good bit at the end, because that was the most exciting part, because it was over. Air Boom faced what I like to call Zigzag, and quite honestly, I wanted Zigzag to win, not because I like their team, but because I hate the name Air Boom. Quite honestly, I think that team should be wiped off the face of earth just for having that name. But unfortunately, Zigzag was not able to pull off a win this time, and Air Boom is still the champions. Now, the next match was Henry facing Orton in a Hell in a Cell match. And Orton had proven that he could RKO Henry, but that wasn't enough. Now, if Orton had won this match, he would have been the first person to ever win both the WWE and the World title, both in a Hell in a Cell match. Unfortunately, he did not win the match, but in the beginning, it was all Orton. Orton was just all over Mark Henry. But when they went outside of the cell, which was a mistake for Orton, Mark Henry started, quote, ragdolling Orton. If you're wondering, ragdolling was a quote used by one of the announcers. I didn't take the time out to pay attention to which one. But Orton came bouncing back later on in the match, getting his second win like he always seems to be able to do. And he actually was able to pull off the RKO on Mark Henry. Unfortunately, RKO didn't work. He pinned him, got a 2 count. So Orton got up and he's like, what do I do next? So he goes for what we all knew he would go for, the punt. But this was deadly to him because Mark Henry was not knocked out long enough for him to do the punt. And as soon as he got to Mark Henry jumped up and gave him the world's strongest slam. And with that, the match was over. And the match was over, but it turned out that the battle wasn't. Henry, earlier in the week, had said that he would not only beat Randy Orton, but he would end his career. So Henry grabbed a chair, trying to do what he had vowed to do. But it turns out that Orton was ready for it. Orton moved out of the way when Henry tried to plant his big ass body onto Orton. And turns out that Orton actually jumped up and beat down Henry with a chair to the point where Henry actually retreated. Just showing how big Mark Henry really is. Now the next thing that happened was Cody Rhodes came out telling all the people in New Orleans that they need to bag their heads because they were ugly and they needed to cover that up. I mean, quite honestly, I'm sick and tired of Cody Rhodes. I think that he needs to just quit. I mean, he's a good wrestler. It's just he's not a good personality for wrestling. His act has become very boring. I mean, I'm alright with a heel act. I mean, I like Dolph Ziggler after all, but you know, I can't stand his Cody Rhodes' act. It's just boring to me. But he did bag the Intercontinental Championship and bring out the Classic Intercontinental Championship. And his exact words were he'd be willing to defend it anytime, any place. So, the biggest disease in WWE, John Laurinaitis comes out to the ring. Well, he didn't come out to the ring, actually stepped on the stage because he's too injured to come out to the ring anyways. But he announced that John Morrison would be facing Cody Rhodes right then for the Intercontinental title. So Cody Rhodes, dressed in nothing but his suit pants, fought against John Morrison and still won, even though he was not ready for the match. Which actually to me proves that Cody Rhodes can defend his title anytime, anywhere. So really he proves his point. After this match, we went backstage. We saw that R-Truth and The Miz were there. Seems to be a little habit. People who were fired earlier in the month showing up at pay-per-views. So R-Truth and Miz were there. They were carried out by police, but later on they became very important to the story. After this scene, Kelly faced Beth Phoenix for the third pay-per-view in a row. Quite honestly, I'm getting tired of seeing the same few women facing each other every week. They need some new women there. Either that, or at least get some variety in the matches, not have the same exact match every pay-per-view. But luckily this time it was a little bit different. For one thing, it was the actual Beth Phoenix, not her double that we saw 2 pay-per-views ago. And she actually won the title for once, which was, of course, only done because of Natalya, who took a microphone and hit Kelly up against the face with it. But quite honestly, I think that we need to really just get some more women in there, because I'm getting tired of seeing the same ones. And then the main event was probably the most exciting thing of the entire night. That was John Cena facing CM Punk and Alberto Del Rio for the first ever triple threat Hell in a Cell match for the WWE title. Now, the match was good. Kinda dull at first, but you know, pretty good. And basically what happened was Alberto Del Rio's ring announcer, Ricardo Rodriguez, sorry I have trouble thinking of his name, he came down and basically took the key from the referee and unlocked the cell. And during that time, John Cena was thrown outside of the cell, making the match a one-on-one match between CM Punk and Alberto Del Rio, which was actually a good match, but still, I mean, it would have been better had all 3 of them been in there and had been like the old days where they went outside the cell and everybody was slamming into the cage, people going through the cage, people going through the top of the cage, people falling off the cage. I mean, there are so many things that used to happen in Hell in a Cell matches that don't happen now, that just makes them boring. Because they used to be way more exciting than this. And I feel sorry for the younger generation because they missed out on the greatest parts of WWE. But after the match, which Del Rio had won, R-Truth and The Miz came out. Now, of course, they were dressed in black hoodies that were supposed to shield their faces, and we weren't supposed to know who they were, but it was pretty obvious. I mean, I'm pretty sure that a 6-year-old could have looked at that and told who it was, if not Stevie Wonder. But basically they beat down the competitors and the referees, which is always a great idea. But see, the Hell in a Cell was locked. Nobody could get out, nobody could get in. So Triple H was down there. All the superstars in the arena were down there. Referees were down there. Police were down there. Finally, here comes a guy with bowl cutters. And he opens up the cell. They get R-Truth and Miz taken care of. And then we have more violence between Triple H hitting John Laurinaitis. So, quite honestly, I do believe that Triple H has lost control of his personal emotions. I don't think he's lost control of the company, but I think that he's lost control of his personal emotions, because otherwise he would not have hit John Laurinaitis. Quite honestly, like I've said before, John Laurinaitis, his name ends in itis. That is a normal ending for a disease. So get a clue, people, please. But anyways, that was your Hell in a Cell. I know this was probably a boring review, but that was a boring pay-per-view. So I'm sorry I can't make the pay-per-view sound any more exciting than it was. This has been the Hell in a Cell review. Please subscribe and see the Raw review tomorrow. Thank you.